Have you ever wondered what a Sasquatch was? Have you ever heard of the Loch Ness's distant cousin, the Champ? The legends and folklore of these paranormal creatures have not only stood the test of time, but remained shrouded in mystery, as for centuries they continue to elude society. Throughout the globe, legendary paranormal creatures and myths have dazzled the human imagination. In our group presentation, we will share several classic monsters along with their history, unique stories, and their presence in contemporary culture. Throughout the Pacific Northwest region of the United States, a giant ape-like creature known as Bigfoot roams the forests. Standing anywhere from 6 to 10 feet tall, often described weighing more than 500 pounds, intelligence on this mysterious creature is collected for nearly 2 centuries, yet still remains to be captured for further study. According to a Bigfoot article extracted from the Skeptics Dictionary, published in 2008, alleged witnesses have described the animal have large eyes, a pronounced brow ridge, and a large, low-set forehead. Similar to a male gorilla and an early form of a humanoid, Bigfoot has been said to possess a strong and unpleasant odor by those who have encountered it. Similar reports have been made confirming this evidence. Bigfoot has been known for its notoriously large footprints, which have sometimes been as large as 20 inches long and 8 inches wide. While most reports claim to have 5 toes, other data suggest that it could have anywhere from 2 to 6. Some even claim that it possesses claw marks, which researchers suggest that it could be mistaken for a large bear. The history of Bigfoot stretches back for nearly 2 centuries, spanning every continent except for Antarctica. Indigenous Native Americans have told legends about the mythical ape before the name Bigfoot was ever given to the creature. Ecologist Robert Pyle argues that most cultures have a human-like giants in their folk history. Human beings have this need for a larger-than-life creature, he explains. One of the earliest recorded accounts of Bigfoot stretches back to 1840, when Reverend Elkanah Walker, a Protestant missionary, recorded stories of Native Americans living in Spokane, Washington. The local inhabitants described the sinister creatures to dwell in nearby mountains stealing fish from fishermen's nets. In 1920, a man named J.W. Burns gave the creature the name Sasquatch and compiled a series of Canadian newspaper articles which popularized the legend of Bigfoot and the name Sasquatch. So it was a well-known phenomenon in Canada before it even came to the United States. In 1951, Eric Shipton was the next big date for Bigfoot. In 1951, Eric Shipton photographed a footprint which he claimed belonged to a Yeti. This photograph shocked the nation and gained widespread attention throughout the United States. One particularly ambitious researcher, Thomas Slick, even went as far to fund numerous research teams for the Yeti throughout California and the Himalayan mountains. Even in our own state, Bigfoot mysteries exist. In August 2004, Jennifer Ward was driving on a rural road in southern Florida. She had just been visiting a friend, and as the sun was setting, she was now on her way home with her 2 daughters asleep in the back seat. Something on the side of the road caught her attention. She suspected it to be an animal of some kind, but could not tell what. She slowed the car to a crawl to get a better look. It appeared to be crouched in a ditch on the roadside. It was something large, something she had never seen before. As she neared it, the creature noticed her, and it stood to its full height. It stood on its 2 legs. It was something, the last thing Jennifer expected to see. When he saw me, he was surprised as I was, she explained. She told the Sun Sentinel. I didn't stop because I was scared. It was almost dark and I could see it to get a good look. Today, scientists often discount Bigfoot as myth or folklore, but some researchers have different views. One fringe theory, supported by paranormal investigator John Eric Beckjord, suggests that the lack of hard evidence supporting Bigfoot existence may be in fact because the creature is an interdimensional being popping that slips in and out of dimensions. Today, there are several organizations dedicated to the research and investigation of Bigfoot sightings. The oldest and largest is the BRFO, the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization. One One of the services that the VRFO provides is a free online database of reports across North America that have been investigated by researchers to determine credibility.
I'm sure that at some point in our lives we have overheard talk of the lake monster Nessie, or the Loch Ness Monster that is said to live in the Loch Ness that is located in the Highlands of Scotland. But one lake monster that is very topic in conversation is Nessie's cousin Champ. In the 400-foot deep lake Champlain, there is said to be a lake monster quite similar to the Loch Ness Monster lurking in society's myth. Lake Champlain is 100 miles long, and it stretches down from Canada and runs north and south between New York and Vermont, forming a natural border between the two states. This lake is strangely similar to the Loch Ness in a few ways. Both of these lakes were formed from a retreating glacier. Both lakes have a maximum depth of 400 feet, and both lakes have a large enough fish population to feed a supposed sea serpent. This lake was named in 1609 by its French discoverer Samuel de Champlain. This lake monster Champ has been described from anywhere between 5 to 20 feet long from head to fin. He has been said to look serpent-like in appearance, with a horse-like head and brownish-gray skin like that of an eel. Over the centuries, there have been many Champ sightings. Most of the people who have witnessed Champ with their own eyes like to believe him to be a relative of the ancient plesiosaur. The description of a plesiosaur and Champ are strangely similar. Both have fins, a horse-like head, a serpent-like body, and most plesiosaurs that are found are normally around 20 feet long, but also could grow quite large. Some say that there is not just one lake monster in Champlain. I mean, what animal could survive all by itself for centuries? No, not just one, but there have been sightings of up to several Champs at a time. The history of Champ dates way back to Indian times, long before the French ever discovered this land in 1609. The Iroquois and the Abenaki Indian tribes, which both lived near to Lake Champlain, have legends about such a lake monster as the ones some of us see in that very same lake today. They call this creature the Tadoskok, which translates to Great Serpent. As these Indian tribes would cross the lake, with their canoes, they would drop various offerings, such as crops or meat, into the water for this great beast. They feared it greatly because it was said that the creature would lurk in the waters and eat humans if it was not pleased. Besides the Indians' account of Champ, Samuel de Champlain, the French discoverer of this lake, wrote in his personal journal of encountering a 20-foot serpent, which was as thick as a barrel and the head of a horse. The first actual reported sighting of Champ was in 1883 when Sheriff Nathan H. Mooney claimed he had seen a gigantic sea serpent about 50 yards away from where he was standing on the shore. Champ became so popular in the 19th century that P.T. Barnum put up a $50,000 reward for the carcass of this beast to display in his famous World Fair show. Many tried to claim that reward, but luckily none have succeeded. On July 5, 1977, a woman named Sandra Mancy was with her 2 young children and her husband-to-be on the Vermont side of Lake Champlain. As she sat there watching her children play in the water, she noticed an object appear in the middle of the lake. But then she realized that it was a grayish-brown head and long snake-like neck of a creature breaking the lake's surface, turning its head around, scanning the countryside. She managed to grab her camera in time to take a picture, then grabbed her children and fled from the scene. Afraid of public ridicule and the emotional health of her children, she hid the picture away, but after being prompted by her friends years later, she released the photograph to the public. This photograph has been proven to be untampered with and very much real. This photograph is the most credible evidence of any lake monster in the world today. Today, Champ is of great cultural importance to both New York and Vermont. The village of Port Henry, New York has erected a giant model of Champ and holds Champ Day on the first Saturday of every August. This is James Earl Crows, Jr. from Port Henry, who erected this model of Champ and won the North County Heritage Award in 2000. As the mascot of Vermont's lone minor league baseball affiliate, the Vermont Lake Monsters, Champ became more prominent after the team was renamed from the Vermont Expos to the Vermont Lake Monsters. Champ has been the primary attraction of the New York Penn League affiliate since their inception. Both New York and Vermont have actually passed resolutions protecting Champ back in the 1980s. These resolutions declared Champ a protected species and made it very illegal to harm Champ in any way whatsoever. As interesting as that is, that protected species status also earns him conservation funding from the Lake Champlain Land Trust. Champ lovers are still patiently waiting for Quebec, another bordering area, to pass a similar resolution. Hopefully, with science growing more and more each day, we will one day soon be able to know for sure what creatures lurk beneath Lake Champlain's deep waters.
Since the Middle Ages, zombies have scared and confused the minds of society. People wonder if they will one day be surrounded by millions of zombies and have to fight every day to save their lives. Many people wonder, will they become, or will they have to fight to kill their own family to save their own lives? Zombies display signs of desiccation, decay, and emaciation on their bodies. They also show signs of increased strength. They wear the clothes that they were wearing in their once normal human lives. In the Middle Ages, it was commonly believed that the souls of the dead could return and haunt the living. It was believed that zombies were warriors that came back and ate the living. The belief of revenants, or someone returning from the dead, is well documented by contemporary European writers. The zombie appears in several ancient cultures worldwide, including China, Japan, the Pacific, Indian, and Native Americans. At 1:45 a.m., Octavio and Rosa Melgar, the owners of a local carniceria, were awoken by frantic cries beneath their second-story bathroom window. Fearing that their store was being looted, Octavio grabbed his pistol and raced downstairs, while Rosa telephoned the police. Crumpled near an open manhole was a quivering, sobbing man covered in mud, dressed in tattered Department of Sanitation coveralls and bleeding profusely from the mangled stump where his right foot had once been. The man, who never identified himself, shouted repeatedly to Octavio to cover the manhole. Not knowing what else to do, Octavio obliged. Before the metal cover slid in position, Octavio thought he heard a sound like a distant groaning. He described his assailants as being covered in a variety of rags and rings, groaning rather than speaking, and approaching at a methodical rhythm. The man's words trailed off into an unintelligible string of phrases, grunts and sobs before he slipped into unconsciousness. The police and paramedics arrived 90 minutes later. By this time, the wounded man was pronounced dead. As his body was driven away, the LAPD officers took statements from the Melgars. Octavio mentioned that he had heard the moaning. The officers noted that, but said nothing. 6 hours later, the Melgars heard the morning news that the ambulance carrying the dead man had crashed and exploded on its way to the county hospital. The radio call from the paramedics consisted mainly of panicky screams and the radio call from the paramedics consisted mainly of panic screams about the deceased subject tearing out of his body bag. 40 minutes after the broadcast, 4 police trucks, an ambulance, and a National Guard truck pulled up in front of the Melgars' home. Octavio and Rosa watched as the area was sealed off by the LAPD and a large olive green tent was erected over it. The manhole with an identical passage running from it to the truck. The Melgars, along with a small crowd of onlookers, hear the unmistakable echo of gunfire from the manhole. Within the hour, the tent was struck. The barricade was lifted and the vehicles quickly departed. There is little doubt that the incident was an aftershock of the downtown Los Angeles attack. Details of the government response, exactly what transpired in that underground labyrinth, may never be known. Zombies in today's society. Zombies are commonly used in modern film and television. What is it about these animated creatures that is so attractive to people of the world? Is it the fear of being turned into a flesh-eating, lifeless monster? Or is it the fascination of being able to slaughter hundreds of them every day after they take over? We see zombies just about every day in popular culture, such as The Walking Dead, a show that comes on AMC, or movies such as Shaun of the Dead, or Dawn of the Dead.
Now, if we look past our atmosphere out to the universe, we may ask a question: are we really alone on Earth? Now, it's up to you, aliens, fiction or non-fiction, but there's a lot of discovery and evidence proving to, well, ask a lot of questions if they're real or not. Now, this is a video taken in Jerusalem. There's 3 different catches. I'm going to go to the last one because it's more close up.
Acabou, é? No, por amor de Deus. Show! Nossa, hein, mano?
The history of the U.S. invented the term unidentified object in 1952, replacing the term flying saucer. The unidentified object, which by performance, aerodynamic characteristics, or unusual features do not confirm to any presently known aircraft or missile type, or which cannot be positively identified as a familiar object. A lot of ancient cultures keep stories about strange sky people since the beginning of history. And from there, many books have been written, movies have been made, and somewhere in all that, the word alien was invented. Many scientists have a theory that aliens came here many thousands of years ago and actually invented life. They since their technology would be much superior than humans, they somehow made up a formula of some sort and they put it in an ape, and that's how humans were made. And many people claim to be abducted by aliens today. And also there's a phenomenon that on Mars, scientists examined and took pictures of a pyramid scanned on the computer. Scientists put a spear on that pyramid, and it was exactly at 19.5 degrees longitude. The weird part is, there's a disaster on almost every planet in our solar system at exactly 19.5 degrees also. In 1961, Betty and her husband Barney were traveling home to Portsmouth from Montreal late one night when they saw a bright light in the sky. This ended up getting bigger and bigger until it was clearly visible as an oval-shaped spacecraft, which then followed their car as the terrified occupants attempted to flee down a series of back roads. The engine stalled. After the engine stalled, the craft landed, and a number of aliens took Betty and Barney from their car and led them onto a craft. The aliens were short, bald, and had light gray skin, big eyes, 2 small nostrils, and a thin slit for a mouth. On a board, both were separated and subjected to experimentation. Betty carried a conversation with the one alien, who spoke a broken form of English, whom she called the leader. He was friendly. At one point, when a long needle was inserted into her navel, a pregnancy test, he told her, she gasped in pain, and by putting his head over her forehead, the leader was able to dull that pain. When she asked him where they were from, he showed her a star on a map she later drew under hypnosis. They were returned to their car and drove home in a funk. Neither remembered that had happened until a few years later when Barney, who had been having nightmares, developed a circular pattern of warts on her belly. Thinking it was stress-related, a psychiatrist suggested that he and Betty go under hypnosis. They did, and the whole story came out. How we view aliens today? Well, as of today, our technology has discovered over 500 planets, and that number is increasing every day. And the farthest we have traveled today was on the spacecraft Voyager, which travels at a speed of 39,000 miles per hour. And in order for that spacecraft to travel 1 light year, it would take 17,217 years, approximately, to cover a light year. So, in order to discover more planets, or even ever leave our galaxy, we would need a much more efficient way. And now that you have been informed about these fascinating creatures and myths, it is our hope that you have not only enjoyed the history, accounts, and present standing of these monsters today, but also found this information intriguing and useful into understanding the world's timeless, mythical creatures. No one can really prove the existence of a Sasquatch, champ, zombies, or aliens, but at the same time, they cannot disprove the existence. Maybe you will be the next person to witness an encounter with one of these creatures or monsters. Who knows?
Yeah.